Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
My name is Megan Henry. I am a white woman with glasses. I have blonde-ish hair that is down. I'm sitting in my office right now. I have some books behind me, a plant and a lamp on a bookshelf, as well as some art on the walls. Santa?
And this, um, it's um, on in the um, then about the
You're in your office, you're wearing a black shirt, you have glasses.
now
Did I get it all, Santa?
about
Almost. I'm not on my game today. Um, All right, well, welcome. Today we want to talk a little bit about voter rights as well as just voter registration. I think there's a lot of info out there, but just reminding people the importance, especially this year, to get out and vote, especially with disability rights in mind and thinking that through and making sure that you're using your vote to make a difference.
right now it's important that people and vote.
Get out and vote. Yeah, it's really important. And just as a note today, Santa doesn't have any of her answers recorded into her communication device, which is totally fine. So we're just going to be doing this more as casual conversation and chatting through these topics. Cool. Um, so we wanted to talk a little bit about the right to vote. And especially in the disability community, this is really, really important. I think maybe particularly, and just because this is kind of my background, and Santa maybe you can speak to this a little bit more, but particularly in kind of those sub-demographics of developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities, oftentimes people are dissuaded from voting. And we want to maybe correct that thinking and remind people that everyone has the right to vote. So do you want to talk a little bit about that, Santa?
That the have that no it it have on a lot of people believe that if they have on they have and not no
Some people believe if they have a what? I didn't catch that word.
um,
A,
um,
I'm not, can you type that one word for me? Okay.
um, how
Oh, guardian. Okay. Yeah. So depending on how that is set up, if someone has a guardian or, some other, I know there's a different terminology surrounding what that might look like for some people. And so in those settings, oftentimes it feels like that person, um, or it's kind of inferred that the person who has a guardianship or something like that shouldn't be voting. And so we want to, talk a little bit about, just the right that people do have to vote as adults in the United States. You do have the right to vote.
I am the not it's even had a lot that is not
The only way you cannot vote is if there's a document, like a government ordered document saying you can't vote.
yeah.
Okay. Otherwise,
Yeah.
anyone can register.
Mhm.
Okay. So speaking of voter registration, probably the easiest way is to register online. And you can have somebody help you register. That's totally legal and fine. And so probably the place that you'd want to go to start with that would be vote.gov. And you can find the registration information for your state there. And I think at some states, again, we don't know the guidance for every single state, unfortunately. But that being said, it's important. You might be able to register day of in some locations. And you can also register to vote by mail in a lot of locations. It may be too late in some states for that, but it's still important to get registered. And a lot of states are really pushing to have more accessible polling places. And you have the right to have accessibility at the polls when you go there that day. Every polling place should be accessible. Yeah, and I think Santa, I haven't looked the information up this year, but in some, I don't know if it's every state or just some states, there's also the right for some people to get approved to have a support person to come in with you to assist you. Is that every state?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
You can have people help you at the polling place, or you can have at home. It's okay to have somebody help you. Yeah. Fill out your mail-in ballot or whatever that looks like. Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot of support resources out there. So you shouldn't be afraid to get registered and use your circle of support. We'll talk about that a little bit later on as well. And then in terms of figuring out who to vote for, I think that can also be scary. That can be overwhelming. Santa and I did a little research on, where to find unbiased information. I think sometimes in the world today, everything feels like it's just so clouded. It's hard to know what to, how to sift through that all. So we did come across a website called votesmart.org. And this breaks down every candidate's background, different policies that they voted for or against, just kind of their political history as well as their current platform, so that hopefully that can give you a better perspective on broadly their political standings, but then also in regards to disability rights, kind of where they stand with that. Does that cover that, Santa?
mm,
Do you want to talk a little bit about
mm.
the disability vote and why that's so important?
Um,
You're like, you opened up a can of worms.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm, mm, mm. Remember that the is the largest in the
We have to remember that the disability community is the largest minority in the US.
and I remember why the Canadian are not that this is some of them are that
You don't.
that
So, correct me if I misunderstood this, but you said more candidate. You don't know why more candidates aren't talking about the disability community, that they should be doing more and should be doing better. And some are, you said, but not. It's probably not enough, right? Yeah. And I think this came up maybe last week or maybe it was a few weeks ago. There is an organization called Disabled Voters for Harris, I believe, which is a great start. Like that's a great, it's important to have communities available for people to understand how candidates support them. But I think even in that, they did have a webinar, and instead of talking about, what the issues were, it was more just an informational call about how people can vote, which is important. Like it is important to know how to do that. Those people already probably are registered. So next steps are that they want to better understand how does Harris support them? Like what does her platform do for them? And so I think, you want to hear about disability issues, top topics. Yeah. Because coming to that, in that conversation, your expectation would be that you would hear how is, whatever Medicare going to be impacted, or how is, yes, the ADA, yeah, these different issues that come up. The savings account that people can have, the limitations on that, or, how do we create more jobs for people in the disability community? I mean, like pressing things that actually impact that, or more funding for technology, or more, whatever those things are going to be. But if you're saying like you care about that community, then what are you doing to talk about it and show it and build that into your platform in the future? And I think that sways how people vote. And I know we're just talking about Harris right now, but I think like she actually has talked about it. So I think, that is why other candidates, maybe it's not even on the radar, and that's an even like different place to be at, because that means that it's not even a thought to be taken into account, you know?
It's not on the table.
It's not even on the table.
It's not on the table. It has it on the menu.
If it's not on the table, then it's not on the menu. Is that what you said? Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, how can you, for somebody who's in the disability community, like, how does that impact how you vote? Like,
on that this no how important this how
they don't realize how big the disability community is and how you can help them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This how this how in the that and that somebody have them I
You would love to see someone have a round table with only people from the disability community. Yeah.
yeah.
And that's it.
And
And talk about your issues.
that was
Yeah. That would be so awesome. Yeah, I mean, and I think like it's interesting because we're seeing a lot more in media representation, in marketing, in like the Paralympics had record numbers of people watching it. Like the wave is coming, right? Like the change is happening, but with institutions, with like government institutions, it's still like lacking in some ways. I think we saw this with HCBS where it was like written into law, but the infrastructure was not created to support. So it's like, yes, all of these things sound great on paper, but if you don't build an infrastructure to support it, then it doesn't actually end up helping the rights of anybody.
Yeah.
And it takes forever. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think like we're seeing things like ensuring that people are making at the very least minimum wage, which that was like a great shift, to require that. But I think, now there's other things that need to be looked at, especially just to ensure that people, it's like contradictory, right? Because we're saying people have rights. They need to live independently. They should live on their own. They should all these things. Great. That's wonderful. But they're only allowed to have $2,000 in their account at any given time. Like how? Like what? Like, to diminish people in that way and be like, you have no economic standing. Like you don't get to have an economic standing in this world today. It's you can't even get what? Married. Yeah. for the financial side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You still have like the limit on the,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just, it's like, there are things that still feel backwards, right? Like things that still feel like they're 50 years behind where they should be. So I know we have a lot to talk about and we can't get into all today, but I think these are some of the reasons, that you and I have chatted about in regards to like why it's so important to continue to vote the right people into office, at the presidential level, but then also at your local level, because there are changes that are going to be taking place at the state, at your city level, like different impacts that will happen because of that. And then those people often go on to get additional, move up into different roles. And so who are you putting on that path,
I was
encourage more people to run for office
who have
a disability.
and not if that people who have a lot of disability.
So just to be more like visibly present in the government. Is that kind of what you're thinking? Yeah, to have that representation. Well, and not only like the representation, and I don't mean to say, I think what I said was not what I intended to say, not just the visual representation, but like the impact of being in those offices and being in those roles and the representation there, but then also like the work that you can do in that space. Is that what you're thinking, Santa?
And not in that room.
And not
and not in that room.
and not sitting in the
That room.
background.
Yeah.
To get out front. Yeah. Well, and if you think about it, like there are protests and rallies and all of these things that have happened over time throughout the history of disability rights. And, it's imploring our government leaders to change things, right? But if you have somebody in the government who already understands that community, like the change would be so different because they are in touch with that community. They understand that community. People with disabilities have to be out there and out in the community. Yeah. Yeah. Being a part of their communities. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I did want to touch on, before we kind of wrap up a little bit, also the responsibility that, people in the circle of support for people with disabilities, that what that responsibility looks like, because it's not to guide people to vote a very specific way. That's not your role. If you have somebody in your family or in your friend group, or maybe you're working in an organization that supports people with disabilities and you are tasked with coming alongside somebody to vote, maybe for the first time, your preferences and your political leanings are not their political leanings, and they should not be. So that's why websites like Vote Smart are great to bring up and show to people, because you can walk them through the unbiased factual information about each candidate, and then they can make their educated decisions on who they're going to vote for. Now, all that to say, like, you can still have conversations about candidates, your perspective, their perspective, but it's never an opportunity to sway somebody to vote the same way as you. I think that so often people in the disability community are their rights are taken away in so many different capacities. And so this is an opportunity to build that bridge back, open that door, and create a path for them to make those decisions for what they want.
I think that people helping them to
You're helping them to vote. You are I didn't catch the last word. Sorry, Santa. You are a robot. You're just entering the information. Yeah, it's data entry. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And I mean, and I think like you and I have talked about this a little bit, like outside, like that moment when they are filling out their ballot is not the moment to be talking about issues, rights, whatever, like whatever. That is the moment, like you're saying, where you're a robot. They say, I want you to vote for this person, put this in, put this in, put this in, whatever it is. You're not swaying their decision. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we are coming up on time a little bit here, but Santa, is there anything else that you wanted to add, just kind of as we're wrapping up this conversation a little bit? We have great power. All we have to do is vote. Yeah.
And we are the we have done and
Yeah. And so to recap what you said, that a lot of people come to you asking you who they should vote for. And you say, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but I'm going to tell you to vote. And you need to get out there and vote. Does that capture it? Okay. Yeah. So I think, wrapping things up, absolutely. Just a reminder, if you do still need to register, I think there's 43 days left until the election. I know, it's scary. So vote.gov, you can register or find your state's registration information. And then if you want more information on the candidates themselves, votesmart.org is a great place to go. And please register to vote. It's really, really important. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.